Farmweek is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farmweek, everyone agrees there will be no farm bill in December as a one-month extension needed.
An EPA proposal to reduce the mandatory use of ethanol draws fire.
In southern gardening, poinsettias. This favorite still has some new looks to show us.
In the markets, the cotton trade gets a neutral report from the USDA, while analysts think the poultry industry will enjoy some profits in 2014.
In the feature segment, John Arrechea, the Mississippi 2012 Outstanding Tree Farmer of the Year. This professional forester practices what he preaches. At one point, he grew Christmas trees as well.
My wife tells me I need to slow up a little bit. So this was just open field for a while after the last Christmas trees were harvested. Anyway, and so I went ahead and planted this area in loblolly. So this is a stand. I'm real proud of it.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artis Ford. Welcome to Farm Week.
It is apparent that a new farm bill won't be passed before the new year when the present farm bill extension ends.
Leighton, the realization that prompted new talk of an extension for 1 month comes from that there's a consensus that the farm bill could be negotiated out and then adopted by the end of January. There's disagreement, however, on this short-term extension. Politico.com reports that U.S. House Ag Committee Chairman Frank Lucas has filed a 6-page bill which would allow for a short-term extension. Lucas, however, said he would be happy to leave the extension on the shelf if the conference committee can complete its work in time for the first week of January. Now, this would allow floor action by the House and the Senate. There's concern that grocery store milk prices will jump dramatically if the so-called permanent farm law is allowed to take effect. Now, U.S. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack said it would take the USDA several days to implement such changes, so an extension wouldn't be needed so long as the Congress passes a new farm bill in early January. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid and Senate Ag Committee Chairwoman Debbie Stabenow both have said no to an extension, trying to keep up the pressure to finish the bill.
The EPA held a hearing December 5th on its proposal to reduce the Renewable Fuel Standard. As proposed, it would reduce the mandate for ethanol production by 30% in 2014. Mike Pearson reports it's a controversial proposal.
There are many players in the debate that represent virtually every aspect of the food supply chain, from grain farmers and animal producers to ethanol producers and oil refiners. Those in favor of cuts to the Renewable Fuel Standard, or RFS, seek relief from what they feel is the reason for higher feed and food costs. Those opposed to rolling back the RFS say the benefits of the grain-based fuel go beyond cleaner air. Statistics from the Renewable Fuels Association show the ethanol industry is directly responsible for nearly 90,000 U.S. jobs. According to proponents, those jobs add $43 billion to the nation's gross domestic product. The issue is volatile enough that nearly 170 people lined up for a hearing held just outside the Washington Beltway in Virginia to testify for or against the proposed cuts.
The RFS was designed to drive investment in new technologies, to drive innovation, to drive new market opportunities. It was not designed to be convenient for the oil companies. The RFS is forcing market change. It's telling the oil companies business as usual can't happen.
Representatives of animal agriculture groups, including the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, the National Turkey Association, and the National Chicken Council, were in attendance.
Congress created this mess, and ultimately Congress can fix it. As corn comprises nearly 70% of the feed given to chickens, our single largest input cost, rising prices directly affect farmers' bottom line. Since 2007, more than a dozen poultry companies have filed for bankruptcy, been sold, or simply closed their doors altogether, due in large part to the high feed costs brought on by the RFS. I want to emphasize that we are not against corn ethanol, we're not against ethanol. What we are against is the hand of government directing into this market and giving it false signals.
The EPA's 60-day comment period on the RFS reduction closes on January 28th.
They've been around for years, but that hasn't stopped the poinsettia from being the most popular flower at Christmas. In this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman shows us poinsettias are still available in solid red, but their colors have been updated.
Poinsettias are the traditional flowering plant associated with the Christmas season. Today I'm visiting Vesley's Nursery in Summerall, getting ready for the holidays. The brightly colored plants come in a variety of colors and patterns. However, what most people call the flowers are actually modified leaves called bracts. The true flowers are the yellow-green bead-like structures called cyathea. Here at Vesley's, the primary varieties being grown are Freedom and Prestige, in both red and white. These are popular varieties as they will color up in response to natural changes in the day length. This means growers don't have to pull shade cloth to artificially change the day length and trick the plants. The Freedom series has bracts displaying rich and full colors. These are compact growing plants with good branching habits. Prestige poinsettias also have nicely colored bracts, plus the foliage tends to be a darker green and a nice background for the color. Also being grown are some bicolors, like my personal favorite Ice Punch, with striking red bracts with white centers. When choosing the perfect poinsettia, always consider form and proportion with the container. A good rule is the plant being 2.5 times taller than the diameter of the container. Another tip is selecting plants with unopened or only partially opening cyathea. In their native Mexico, the bright red flowers of poinsettia are known as Flores de la Noche Buena, or flowers of the Holy Night, as they bloom each year during the Christmas season. I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Leighton Gary says that there's an old myth that poinsettias are poisonous, and that's not true. The milky sap, however, can irritate the skin of some people, so if you get it on you, just be sure to wash it off. In the feature segment today, John Arrechea, the 2012 Mississippi Tree Farmer of the Year. Arrechea spent his professional career and private life promoting multiple-use tree farming. And Leighton, you've been on the road this week.
That's right. Early part of the week, the 92nd annual meeting of the Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation wound up in Jackson. That was late Monday morning as the week began. One of the final orders of business, as usual, was adopting policy to guide the organization's efforts during the next year, which in this case, of course, will be 2014. Nearly 650 Farm Bureau members took part in the three-day meeting that included cowboy poet Baxter Black as keynote speaker. Now, MFB President Randy Knight, who you see here, presided over all the events, which included the naming of the Young Farmer Achievement Award winner and also presentation of the Distinguished Service Award. And we'll have much more on this meeting next week here on Farmweek.
Time now for the markets, and Leighton, you say that there's talk of a good year ahead for the poultry industry.
That's right, Artist. One Wall Street firm is even saying the industry will definitely be profitable in 2014. We're also following these stories in the markets. The USDA lowers grain ending stocks. The cotton production forecast drops slightly as the feeder cattle market appears to have good demand. Tuesday brought the release of the last crop and supply-demand reports of this year. The USDA made the most changes to its supply-demand table for corn, but soybean stocks shrank as well. Extension Ag economist John Michael Riley explained the impact of the new numbers on the grain sector in this Wednesday interview. John Michael, what did Tuesday's report have to say about our corn situation?
Well, we did see a pickup in total corn use for the current marketing year, which with unchanged production, unchanged yield from last month, left us with a smaller carryover from this current marketing year to next, 1.792 billion bushels, excuse me, about 70 million less than expected, and about 100 million less than the previous month. So we really drew down that carryover a little bit, largely due to higher ethanol demand, higher exports, a number of different factors there.
And that figure was pretty much within the pre-report expectation, no real shock there at all.
Not a tremendous shock, it was lower, and so because it's lower, you would expect a market reaction to indicate that. We really didn't see that. Prices actually dropped, even though the carryover was smaller than expected. Prices were actually a little bit lower.
Mm-hmm. Now, a little bit unrelated, but the RFS discussion, the Renewable Fuel Standard, some uncertainty maybe for the future as far as corn and how that may all play out?
Definitely some uncertainty, largely due to the fact that we're just consuming less and less gasoline. That mandate is based on a percentage of inclusion, and if you start using less and you have a high mandate, then you're going to exceed that level that you're not supposed to, and therefore they've had to really take a hard look at that and potentially pulling that back.
All right, let's look at soybeans. What did the numbers tell us about the soybean market?
Less soybeans in carryover, 20 million less than last month, but right in line with expectations. Market reacted similar to corn, just kind of a ho-hum day in terms of compared to what you might expect. So yeah, less carryover for soybeans, again attributable to more demand.
So really neither bullish or bearish, just kind of like corn, just kind of a ho-hum.
That's right. Market just kind of didn't react very much.
All right. Now I understand there was some forecast as far as South America. Those numbers, is that going to be a major player as far as the bean market in the future?
That's really playing in lately. The expectation is they're having a good year. It looks like they're having a good year. We didn't really see that this month, but again, it's early in their growing season. I don't know the USDA is really ready to make a firm projection on South America just yet, but all indications are that they're having a really good year so far.
Now, as for cotton, Doan's termed Tuesday's report a neutral one. All cotton production is forecast now at 13.1 million bales, down slightly from last month, but down 25% from 2012. Yield is expected to average 806 pounds per acre, which is down 81 pounds from last year. The Doan's commentary said this latest report did no further damage to the cotton market. Our trivia quiz this week concerns peanuts, and here's your first look at it. What crop cannot be rotated on the same ground as peanuts? Is it cotton or corn or soybeans? I'll tell you at the end of the markets.
We're going to pause for a short break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll look at the calendar and the rest of the markets. Leighton Spann reports poultry will be profitable in 2014, and there could be sticker shock among beef consumers in the new year. In the feature segment today, John Arrechea, Mississippi's 2012 Outstanding Tree Farmer of the Year. Christmas is one of his favorite times of the year.
Each year, many Mississippians are seriously injured or killed when farm tractors overturn. One cause of these accidents is improper hitching. If a tractor is hitched at any point above the drawbar, it can flip over backwards. Never hitch a tractor using the bar between the three-point hitch upper and lower links or at the top link attachment point. The stationary drawbar is the only safe location for tractor hitching. A message from the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Before we get back to the markets, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. A free whole farm planning seminar will take place Wednesday, December 18th. The location is the Gulf States office of the National Center for Appropriate Technology. It's located in the old New Deal Grocery on Livingston Road in Jackson. Starts at 4 p.m. You will be asked to pre-register since the space is limited. Setting business goals, planning for profits, and assessing potential enterprises are on the agenda. The NCAT is a national nonprofit that offers assistance for sustainable living. And in January, the Delta Ag Expo always makes its annual run. That's Wednesday and Thursday. January 22nd and 23rd takes place in Cleveland, Mississippi at the Bolivar County Expo Center, located near the intersection of Highways 8 and 61. In addition to the many vendors who will be on site, there will also be educational sessions on row crops, irrigation, and pest control. There's no admission fee. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
The Wall Street firm Stephens Incorporated has released its outlook for the chicken business next year, and it sees profits ahead for this industry. Analysts attribute the positive picture to the fact that growth of poultry supplies will remain constrained through much of 2014. Further out, that economic picture for chicken is being described as murky, though. By 2015, chicken supplies are likely to increase, and traders believe that may weaken the profit picture. In fact, the website meetingplace.com reports some producers are signing multi-year contracts now in order to avoid having to negotiate next fall. Turning to beef in the markets, continued growth in the U.S. economy is seen as a must in order to really drive demand in fed cattle. Analyst John Roach describes the state of affairs this way.
The cattle market is just kind of struggling in here right now. The exports have been very good. We had the last couple of months particularly, we had good export numbers, but we're just having a struggling kind of market. My hope is here that we're getting with positive economic news and employment news, and maybe we can crank a little demand back up, but struggling kind of a market, steady struggling.
Meanwhile, on the feeder cattle side, demand has been pretty good of late. However, analyst Sue Martin is concerned about what consumer attitudes may be as we get into 2014. She thinks the general higher cost of living may force some decisions that will be detrimental to the beef sector.
I think the feeder market has had some pretty good demand. We all know that. Feedlots wanted to buy as many cattle as they could get. You had moisture into the wheat pastures, so that was off to a good start, so they had a place to put them out on grass. I think that when I look at the cattle market, my concern is that once we roll the year over, how is the housewife going to keep paying for increased medical costs or insurance costs? Somewhere, everything's going up in costs. Somewhere, something's got to give. They're going to start cutting back on their grocery bill. Maybe it's smaller portions, however they want to do it. That is a concern. But in the long term, this winter is going to be a big bullish factor, I believe, for the cattle market.
Before our feature story, let's check the trivia answer for this week. And the correct choice is C. Peanuts and soybeans cannot be rotated on the same ground because they are subject to the same diseases. In this week's feature story, we take you back to the fall of 2012 to meet a gentleman whose passion for trees is unmistakable. Many children in the Oxford area got their first introduction to what tree farming is all about thanks to the school tours that John Arrechea hosted on his property for 25 years. Now, John continues to be a strong advocate for forestry and always has time to show a visitor to his farm what it means to be a good steward of the land. John Arrechea was named the Outstanding Tree Farmer of the Year in 2012 by the Mississippi Forestry Association.
This sign marks the turnoff for Springwood Christmas Tree Farm, John Arrechea's tree farm south of Oxford, Mississippi. What are now open areas on this beautiful place used to be covered in Christmas trees. Lots of Christmas trees, 7 acres worth in fact.
Christmas trees were the first main enterprise of this farm. From 1985 to 2010, John Arrechea had school groups out here each year. He taught them about what it takes to produce Christmas trees and about how to take care of the land.
This was a highlight of my year when the children, even pre-kindergarten and kindergarten, came out in the July to August, September, hot out here, but I knew that the children were going to be coming and they'd bring their school buses in, and sometimes with as many as 60 children in one group. But I enjoyed that.
Each November and December for 25 years, John Arrechea used his tree farm as a demonstration area to educate young people about forestry. During this time, he figures he sold well over 4,000 Christmas trees. Also during these years, John's wife Lois operated a related business each holiday season. She made wreaths and garland from all the cull trees in a workshop in this house on the farm. Although the tours for children ended in 2010 and Christmas tree sales are now limited to stock he buys wholesale and brings in, John is still always more than happy to take a walk on his property with visitors or friends and talk about his tree farm.
The thing that kind of impresses me is with 120 acres, he's got a wide variety of habitat. I mean, he's got some bottomland hardwood, he's got some upland old growth, you know, an area where he's done the Christmas tree farm that he's gradually converting over to pine, and then the pine plantation areas. It's just amazing the variety of habitat he has here.
This ridge on the farm was converted from Christmas trees to loblolly pine production in 2007. John Arrechea personally planted 1,000 seedlings as a reforestation project.
This area here at one time for a number of years was in different Christmas trees, probably improved variety of Virginia pine. And so as time went on, my wife tells me I need to slow up a little bit. So this was just open field for a while after the last Christmas trees were harvested. Anyway, and so I went ahead and planted this area in loblolly. So this is a stand, I'm real proud of it.
Adjacent to the young trees is a stand of 21-year-old loblolly. Forestry consultant Bill Canale worked with John Arrechea on a harvest operation on this part of the tree farm in 2008. A first thinning was conducted on 66 acres of loblolly.
I actually found a quality thinning crew from Bruce, Mississippi. We negotiated with them and conducted basically a fifth row system, fairly light thinning, but it's a beautiful stand of high quality genetics, pole quality material, and John said it was planted with International Paper Company stock, and certainly left enough volume to come back and do a second cut within the next few years.
There has also been other forest management work in addition to harvesting and reforestation on this tree farm in the last 5 years. Other practices have included the rehabilitation of existing fire lanes in 2008, as well as the installation of new ones.
So we come in and, of course, put water bars and turnout ditches on the existing fire lanes, put in new ones, and we covered it with some arrowleaf clover, some common Bermuda, and it's held really well. You know, we don't see much erosion, and he's also got some native grasses coming back on it as well. He's got some common lespedeza for wildlife. So he was looking at three things really with the fire lanes: one, fire control, some wildlife habitat, and then some good areas that he can get around the property and keep an eye on it.
John Arrechea's most recent forest management work on the tree farm was performing a QVM spray in 2011. Working through his consultant and his service forester with the Mississippi Forestry Commission, John obtained cost-share funding for an aerial application to control both woody and herbaceous species of vegetation in the pine plantation. A controlled burn is scheduled to take place in the winter of 2013.
John Arrechea is just a prime example of what we like to see in a forest landowner. He manages his tree farm on a sustainable basis. He has a diversity of crops in his business. He's got the traditional forestry going on. He does thinning and regeneration, but he also does his little Christmas tree farm sales.
Unlike some tree farmers, forestry is more than just a hobby for John Arrechea. He is college trained in this field and was a forester with the U.S. Forest Service until his retirement in 1987. John has had a written forest management plan for his property since the day he bought it 42 years ago.
A landowner's objectives can vary, and depending on what they want to do, they can either manage for economic gain, or they can have multi-purpose management. John manages multi-purpose. He is a big advocate for wildlife. He also has the Christmas tree farm here. So he has income producing opportunity as well as beneficial enjoyment.
But probably the most impressive thing that really stood out to me was what Mr. John and Miss Lois do for the community in promoting forestry and the tree farm program. He's held a position on the Oxford Tree Board, served as the chair on that board, and he's helped found a nature trail which was actually named after him here in the community.
Perhaps most importantly, John Arrechea is responsible for helping organize the Lafayette County Forestry Association 20 years ago. John is now the editor of the Lafayette CFA newsletter and serves on the board as treasurer. He has been a member of the Mississippi Forestry Association since 1965 and the Society of American Foresters since 1967. From Oxford, Mississippi, I'm Leighton Spann reporting.
And you can watch this story again on John Arrechea on the Farmweek website, Facebook page, or our YouTube channel. The website address, as you know, is farmweek.msucares.com. We will also have links and contact information for agencies where you can get forestry advice to help you start to manage a tree farm, including, of course, the Extension Service, the Mississippi Forestry Commission, and other agencies. And artists John and Lois doing well. Now this year they didn't buy any Christmas trees wholesale to sell in the place as they have the last few years. So again, slowing down a little bit more, but things still going well there.
Well, that's good to hear. Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, a profile of Dr. Temple Grandin.
This animal scientist is well known and respected for her work in designing facilities to handle cattle according to their natural instincts. She's also a leader in bridging the gap between animal agriculture and animal rights supporters. Grandin is also autistic.
In southern gardening, ornamental cabbage and kale for winter color. For the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artis Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.